It's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, and you're staring at your phone. Maybe it's an app for a stock portfolio, or maybe it's just your banking app. You see a number. It's a number that represents your future, your security, or perhaps just your ability to pay rent next month. And in that moment, you feel it, that tightness in your chest, that quiet, nagging urge to do something. Maybe you want to buy that thing you've been eyeing for weeks because you've had a stressful day and you deserve a win. Or maybe the market is down and you feel a visceral physical need to pull your money out before it all disappears. We like to think of ourselves as rational, calculating creatures. We think we're the CEOs of our own lives, making cold, logical decisions based on data and long-term goals. But the truth is much more uncomfortable. The truth is that you are walking around with a brain that was designed for a world that no longer exists. You're trying to navigate a complex, digital, global economy using hardware that was optimized for one thing and one thing only: surviving the next 24 hours on the African savanna. If you've ever felt like you're your own worst enemy when it comes to money, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're actually functioning exactly as evolution intended. But that's exactly why building wealth feels so incredibly hard. We've been told for decades that personal finance is just math. It's algebra, it's simple interest, it's asset allocation. If it's so simple, why are most of us struggling? Why does the person with the PhD in economics still panic sell their 401k during a recession? It's because we aren't spreadsheets. We are bundles of nerves and ancient instincts. We treat being bad with money as a character flaw or a lack of discipline. We tell ourselves we're lazy or impulsive. But when we do that, we're ignoring 200,000 years of biological success. If you didn't find food today, there was no 30 years from now. When you spend money impulsively, or when you feel paralyzed by the idea of investing, you aren't failing at being a modern human. You are succeeding at being an ancient one. The problem isn't your character. It's the mismatch between your biology and your bank account. And until we understand how that lizard brain is pulling the strings, no amount of financial advice is ever going to stick. To understand why your brain hates the idea of long-term wealth, we have to go back, way back. Think about the environment your ancestors lived in for the vast majority of human history. Resources were scarce. Calories were hard to find. Predators were everywhere. In that world, saving for the future was a death sentence. If you found a high-calorie fruit tree, the most rational thing to do was to eat every single piece of fruit until you were sick. This created a psychological phenomenon we now call hyperbolic discounting. It's a fancy term for a very simple instinct. Our brains value a small reward right now much more than a massive reward later. To your ancient brain, later is a theory. Now is a reality. When you see a notification for a 50% off sale, your brain isn't seeing a loss of capital. It's seeing a ripe fruit tree that might not be there tomorrow. The dopamine hit you get from that purchase isn't greed. It's your survival instinct rewarding you for securing a resource. Then there's the issue of risk. In the modern world, risk is a fluctuating red line on a screen. But to your brain, risk still feels like a predator in the tall grass. This is why we experience loss aversion. Psychologists have found that the pain of losing something is twice as powerful as the joy of gaining it. For an ancient human, gaining extra food was a bonus, but losing your existing food meant death. So when the stock market drops 10%, your brain doesn't see a buying opportunity. It sees its life-sustaining resources being snatched away. It triggers the amygdala, the fight-or-flight center. Your heart rate increases, your palms sweat. You feel an overwhelming urge to run. That run manifests as clicking the sell button. You're not being stupid, you're trying to survive a perceived famine. But perhaps the most powerful biological trap is the social one. We are tribal animals. For most of human history, being cast out of the tribe meant certain death. This meant that your status within the group was the single most important asset you owned. You had to look successful, look strong, and look like you contributed value. In the modern world, we signal status through what we consume. The car you drive, the clothes you wear, the house you live in. These aren't just things.
To your brain, they are signals to the tribe that you are a high-status individual who deserves protection and respect. This is why lifestyle creep is so hard to fight. When your income goes up, your brain screams at you to upgrade your lifestyle, not because you're vain, but because it wants to secure your place in the social hierarchy. It's terrified that if you don't keep up with the Joneses, you'll be the one left behind when the tribe moves on. So where does that leave us? Are we just doomed to be broke because our ancestors lived in caves? Not necessarily. The turning point happens when you stop trying to fight your biology and start trying to outsmart it. You have to realize that you cannot willpower your way out of 200,000 years of evolution.
Willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery that drains every time you make a decision. By the time you get home from a long day of work, your logical brain is exhausted and your lizard brain is holding the remote and the credit card. The shift happens when you move from trying harder to building systems. If your brain treats your future self like a stranger, then you need to stop asking for permission to save. You have to automate the process. When money is moved to an investment account before you even see it in your checking account, you bypass the pain of loss and the urge to consume. You're essentially tricking your brain into thinking that money never existed in the first place. You're working with your nature by removing the choice entirely. We also have to change how we talk to ourselves about stuff. We have to recognize the tribal signal for what it is. When you feel that intense urge to buy something expensive to prove you've made it, take a breath and ask, who am I trying to signal to? The irony of wealth is that the signals of wealth are often the very things that prevent you from actually having it. True wealth is the stuff you don't see, the freedom to say no, the peace of mind when the car breaks down, the ability to walk away from a job you hate. Your lizard brain doesn't value those things because they aren't visible. You have to consciously remind your logical brain that the unseen is more valuable than the signal. When it comes to the fear of loss, we need to zoom out. Our brains are hardwired to look at the immediate environment. If it rained today, we think it'll rain forever. If the market is down today, we think it's going to zero. We have to force ourselves to look at the macro view. If we look at the historical growth of wealth, we can use a simple model. Let's look at the formula for future value, where PV is your present value, R is your rate of return, and N is the number of periods. Your brain is obsessed with the PV, the money you have right now. It is terrified of losing it. But the real power in that equation isn't the money, it's the N, the time. By understanding that time is the exponent, you can start to convince your logical mind that the risk of doing nothing is actually much higher than the risk of the market fluctuating. The real predator isn't a 10% dip. The real predator is inflation and the loss of time. So what does this look like in practice? It's not about becoming a monk or never buying a latte again. It's about creating friction for your bad habits and flow for your good ones. If you struggle with impulsive spending, don't just try to stop. Unsubscribe from the marketing emails. Delete your credit card info from your browser. Make it so that you have to physically get up and find your wallet to buy something. That 30-second delay is often enough for your logical brain to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, we don't need this. If you're terrified of the market, stop checking your accounts every day. Your brain isn't built to handle that much high-frequency threat data. Every time you see a red number, you're hitting your amygdala with a hammer. Check it once a quarter. Check it once a year. Give your nervous system a break. And most importantly, forgive yourself for the mistakes you've already made. We carry so much shame around money. We look at our bank accounts and we feel like we failed some kind of hidden test. But you didn't fail. You've just been trying to fly a 747 with a manual written for a bicycle. The goal isn't to become a perfect, emotionless wealth-building machine. That's impossible. The goal is to become a conscious human, someone who can feel the urge to spend, feel the panic of a market drop, or feel the sting of social comparison, and then say, I see you, lizard brain. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep me safe. Thank you, but I've got it from here. Wealth is built in the quiet, boring moments of consistency. It's built in the decisions you don't have to make because you set up a system 6 months ago.
It's built when you decide that your peace of mind is more important than your status signal. As you go about your week, I want you to start noticing those survival pings. When you feel that rush of "I need this now," or that cold spike of "I need to sell everything," just name it, identify it. That's my survival instinct. By naming the feeling, you take away its power. You move the decision from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. You move from being a passenger to being the driver. Building wealth is a counter-biological act. It's a rebellion against your own instincts. And like any rebellion, it's not easy and it's not linear. There will be days when the lizard brain wins. There will be days when you eat all the fruit and forget about tomorrow. That's okay. The path to financial freedom isn't about being perfect. It's about being slightly better than your instincts were yesterday. It's about planting that orchard even when you're hungry for the fruit right now. Because eventually, the version of you that exists 30 years from now, that stranger your brain can't quite see, is going to wake up one day and be so grateful that you decided to be their friend. Progress isn't a straight line, and you're navigating a world you weren't built for. Give yourself some credit for making it this far. The hardware might be old, but you're the one writing the software now.